We're about to do a blow-by-blow detailed breakdown of a medieval combat between Duke Uther on the left of the West and also of An Tir, Duke Schiemann on the right, presently King, I believe, of Artemisia. Two of the greatest fighters in the SCA. This one's by special request. So we were actually requested to do a different video that, for technical reasons, isn't working. So Duke Schiemann actually recommended this combat footage of the two of them shortly after. So this is from 2011. So let's take a look. We're going to dive right in, and based on some recent feedback, what I'm going to do is run through an entire fight forward, and then we'll go through and in detail break it down. So we're going to do each fight little by little. Based on feedback, we're going to let the whole thing run through before breaking it down. So right off the bat, we see they're both right-handed. Duke Uther's a little taller. Duke Schiemann strikes Uther in the leg. By SCA rules, that means Uther needs to fight from the ground. You're not helpless. As you can see, Uther manages a shot on Schieann's leg. Now, they both have to fight kneeling. Again, SCA peculiarity, but, you know, it's still a pretty cool fight. And Duke Schiemann lands an offside body shot. All right, so let's take a look at that. That was a high-level detail of how that fight went down. Let's break it down a little more analytically. These guys obviously know each other. They're practicing, and this is for fun, but let's assume for the purposes of analysis that they're giving their very best for these fights. So right off the bat, Duke Uther. You're going to walk out against on the field against Duke Uther. You're going to notice he's more than 6'2", maybe up to 6'4", 6'5". You're going to notice he's right-handed, fighting with a sword that has a thrusting tip, so he can stab with it. You'll notice that he has a large center grip shield that's oval, slightly curved. And you're going to notice Duke Schiemann has a particularly wide but short heater arm strap, so it's a little bit stronger defensive style. You can do more punches and manipulations with it. But you can't move it quite as far out of the way. So there's more of an offside shot threat, like a deep offside body shot threat with a center grip, say, than arm strap heater, because you can't move that heater that far out of your way. You're also going to notice that Schiemann is right-handed. I'd say probably about 5'11". If you know these guys' reputations, you know they're both highly analytical fighters. Their battle computers are always going. They don't tend to be flurry fighters, so they don't pre-program their shots and say, I'm going to throw this combo here, 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 then here, and hopefully one of them lands. These guys are fast enough that they're throwing individual blows, and I know Sean preaches this, but it looks like a combination because they're working from one opening to the next. So let's start with slow motion. They settle in. They know each other's range very well. Sean's initial shot, brilliant shot, manages to get under the shield, makes it look super easy. Now, he throws directly, it looks like he throws directly into Uther's legs, but Uther doesn't drop his shield and block it. So let's take a look at why. What is it that Sean does? Watch Sean's foot takes a step back. That's part of this, right? So he looks planted here. He takes a step back. It looks like he's giving ground, right, to Uther. But he immediately then goes forward on the offense. So take a half step back and immediately switch to offense. People don't quite expect that often, right? So going forward, and then he throws a pretty straightforward low leg shot with a bit of a scoop at the end. You see that it goes down and up just a little bit. That gets under Uther's shield. So what is it that made Uther lift his shield a little bit? So we go back a little bit. You see Uther's shield actually bobbles for a second before it goes up. So he either posts it up or, you know, maybe he doesn't lift it, but he doesn't respond quick enough. The thing that I'm thinking, without seeing, Sean might be doing an eye fake or something like that, but if you watch Sean's shield goes up. A lot of people, when their shield goes up, they're throwing for the leg because it's a bit of a feint. But one way or another, Sean gets under there. And you can see he actually manages to race the sword under the edge of Uther's shield and land square in the thigh. Does a follow-up high shot, just in case Uther doesn't block the head or take the leg blow. Uther's dropping right away. Uther's doing something very smart. Instead of dropping and settling in, he's immediately throwing a counterattack. There's no rules against continuing to fight while you drop. But it doesn't really land. And perhaps that's a body motion here. It also looks like you can see it skips off of Sean's shield here and down into the leg, so that probably robbed a lot of the power out. And why is Sean's shield there and able to defend? It's because Sean took that big step forward. He followed his feet up behind him after he threw that headshot to close the distance. That's how his shield, short though it is, was able to get there and deflect Uther's sword and take most of the power away. Throws the wrap. Now Sean's going to try to get out. and Uther is throwing. Again, Sean gets just the edge of his shield and deflects it down. If Uther had thrown this a little bit lower, in the SCA you're invulnerable from the knee down. You can see he had maybe an inch or two to throw lower on that moving target to try to get that to land. All right. Next off, moving back into slow motion, we see an exchange. Sean is squaring up in the front. He doesn't want to corkscrew his opponent. Another shot doesn't quite land on the leg. Uther's throwing combos for the head. Then he gets the wrap, and that one bites. So let's take a look at that. And Uther's doing what looks like a lot of hand attacks in this, but he's got a ton of power. So other fighters might need to, sink their hips a lot more, use a little bit more body mechanics to make some of those viable threats. So Sean actually waits for Uther to throw, it looks like. Uther is moving in to make the attack. Sean then counters into the blow to close in and step in, throws that offside. That offside's more just to keep Uther's sword busy, I think. I don't know that it's a legitimate threat. Sean finishes his step in, and now, when you see someone in this cross position, this to me is looking, and the sword here, it looks like what he's going to want to do is, to me, that always looked like it's going to be a moulinet, or perhaps an offside to the body or leg. So Sean throws offside. Uther gets his shield over. You see Uther's shield position shift just a little to the right to make that block. Bam. So that was a low body offside Sean was trying to land. Uther here has the chance to throw an offside right into Sean's head, especially here. If we zoom up, you can see that Sean's only real defense against that offside is to raise his sword really fast. Because if he's to lift his shield to make that block, his arm is in the way of it. Now again, we're talking about frames here, so it's easy for us to say maybe his head's open to a counter from Uther here because his arm is binding his own shield. And he actually gets his sword up to sort of protect that quadrant. Uther throws that leg shot, comes off of Sean's shield. Once again, Sean's shield in the right position because he stepped forward. Now he's actually throwing. Look, the way Uther gets his power on this, see his tip is way down. He's rotating mostly in the wrist, but he's getting the sword to move quite a long ways around to make it happen. And Uther's also pinned his hand against the top corner of Sean's shield. So that does mean that the shield's going to be in the way a little bit, but it also means that Uther's able to sort of try to lever up over the top of the shield edge, which was he's going for. Now that just skips off of Sean's helmet if it touches at all, and then he does a follow-up. Basically, he continues the rotation once around, work the arm back to throw, now into... This is really neat, actually, so I didn't even see this in slow motion. We go back, you see Uther calls off a shot, so we go back here, he does the first shot. Nope. Loop it around again. Nope. Sean's got it mostly blocked. Now you see Uther wind up. He cocks his elbow back. In this position, you can see the blade dangling behind him and all the power chambered up into that arm. That is for him to uncork an offside. To throw a shot... Sorry, semi-truck. That's a noisy. Apologies. All right, so for him to throw a shot into that quadrant that we've got a box around here would be really difficult because Uther would need to then open his wrist. With his wrist cocked in, it's almost like, how right now if you were to put Uther in the position of arm wrestling Sean, it would look like Uther's doing a good arm wrestling because he's tipped his hand in towards his face at the wrist, but you can't really throw a shot up here while your hand is cocked that way. So he would need to unrotate his wrist and then lose all the stored power that he's got here. So this is threatening an offside or a slot shot into this area, right? And he looks like he's ready to throw it, sees the opening isn't there. He's got his own shield up sort of blocking Sean for him. So now that offside's not going to be a real option, so he then chambers it back again. And now you look, he's able to get the power around to the outside. So there's that onside threat comes after he converts from the offside to the onside. Sorry, I'm not being very articulate, right? And that comes in maybe just a hair, it's hard to see. Maybe just a hair flat. It looks like it's 3/4 on edge. And also with a scooping motion, it's not necessarily about the final position of the hand. It's about the direction the sword was going, right? So the sword wasn't going straight into the leg. The sword was going this way at the end of the wrap, and the blade is aligned with that. Awesome wrap, and Sean obviously felt that it was a threat to the head based on his shield position. So Sean drops to his knees, and here we go. Let's watch the rest of this fight in slow-mo. Really cool. What I've come to see is, I don't know if it's any more, but circa 2010, 2011, 2012, a bread and butter shot from Sean is coming up. We'll watch it in slow-mo. So they square off. Yep, we're both ready to go. Let's do this. Bam. I love that shot. I've been trying to practice it at home. So what's he do here? First, there's a bit of a body fake. If you watch Sean's hips and watch his head height, you see them both go down, up. So he's springing up, right? So his whole body and everything's going this way. And it's not just a fake, but it looks like if someone's going to go up like that, usually they're trying to cheat height. Well, that makes it look like it's going the wrong way. He's going to try to bring the sit away from the camera and then in and hit Uther in the head. Like he's trying to get up high for the snap is what that reads like. He's coming up and he wants to snap his sword over to the left side of up to the left side of Uther's head. That's actually, he's getting some power into it, and then you see him shift, roll the hand over, and the hand now starts coming down the front edge of the shield. And then it strikes forward and out. Now this is really, really tight. If we were able to rotate the camera around so that you've got Sean's view, maybe, I don't know, I'm going to experiment here. I'm going to try to draw what Sean would see. You're going to see Uther looks like, behind his shield, he looks like this. Right? Uther's shield is, that's hard to do. What I'm going to do is, oh man, this is an experiment, bear with me. I'm just going to change colors instead of using the shape tool. Uther's shield looks like this. Not a lot showing. But what Sean is able to do, if you're Sean and you're facing him, is bring his hand over to about here, and then reach, maybe even further. I'd say maybe about here, right? And then what he's able to do is, by opening the wrist, crank the blade straight down into here. So the blade motion comes straight down into this slot. Now that's very narrow margin, because if you hit to the outside, you skip off. If you hit to the inside, you hit the shield edge. It's got a very narrow margin to get it to bite straight in, and you'll also notice this is a place where Sean doesn't have a thrusting tip on his sword. That's a bit of foam that allows you to stab in the SCA. So the tip of his sword is stiff rattan, and that's going to bite into Duke Uther's body if you're able to aim precisely enough. I don't know that that really illustrated things. Leave a comment, let me know if that was helpful or just confusing. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do these. And you see him throw this sort of shot when he's legged and when he's standing. But you can see, if you now look at Uther, you see Uther's shield come up because he sees, oh, it's a snap to the head. Right? So that helps create some of the opening. Uther doesn't open much, but it creates just enough for Sean to drop the shot in. All right, so 10-second fight, 13 minutes of analysis. How boring is that? Let's watch another. Okay, standard bread and butter shots. And we see Uther got tagged in the body while Sean got tagged in the leg. All right? It looks like is how they called it. So they step in. There's that, to me, what looks like a signature sort of shield bobble. I think based on the way that Sean straps his shield. The other thing he's doing, look, his shield sort of, it's moving around, but he's also masking his body motion behind it. So the shield sort of stands still, but his rear foot started moving. Sean's actually on the move. He's taken a half step over on that back foot, which allows him to take another shuffle step, but his shield stayed in place. And to me, it almost looks like, hey, look at my shield. Pay attention. It's standing still. Look at it moving around. But meanwhile, when Sean starts, his body is here. He's bobbling his shield around. Now his body, look at where his body is now. It's all the way over there. So he's managed, I think I don't know. It might just be a bit of a tick, but I think what he's trying to do is sort of distract and hide his body motion. Especially when someone takes a step forward with their back foot first, they're usually hiding it from their opponent, in my opinion. Some of it is it helps you keep a narrow stance as opposed to widening your stance. You know, if Sean were to take a step forward with this foot here, that opens him up a little bit to Uther countering it. But I suspect that what's happening is that he's trying to mask that forward motion. So Sean moves forward, throws the low shot, gets under the shield, but doesn't connect. You can see it just sort of whips through. Uther with the big counter. You can see Uther's skirt moving. Now Sean does he does this a lot, at least in this era. He throws the snap and then follows it with the rear leg. So he steps in, throws the snap, big rotational shot, kind of high into the outside, steps in. He knows Uther's blocking it, goes into a pretty standard combo snap offside. And that offside is pretty precise. He's getting it just over the edge of the shield. Look at the way the hand is held really, really high, and the tip is pointed really, really low. The point of that is to get over the edge of this shield here. So he's able to drop it down and over the edge of the shield between the hand and the shield edge. Now, it might bop him a bit. I'm not sure if that's the shot that Uther takes. Uther throws the shot. This one's laser precise. This is where I would love to see Sean's shield personally, like this long. Because I'm sure he's got a better reason for having that shield than I can ever, because he's such a good fighter. But it looks to me like when he rotates his shield, it doesn't get low enough to block his leg. And because the curve on it, it never gets low enough. It's almost round at that angle, right? So Uther's able to get the shot in on the leg. Sean now throws what might be, it looks like it's into the shield. And I think Uther's saying that body shot was good or the head shot was good, but the body wasn't. Regardless, Uther takes it as a death. So, yeah, maybe it was Sean's second shot, but the first headshot was light. I'm not sure. We see that leg shot again, but it didn't really connect, and Sean... Oh, I promised I would let an entire pass go without interrupting, didn't I? Let's do that. I get so excited. Okay, there's Uther's getting that shot that he really likes. And you can hear Sean saying he wanted to trade, right? He wanted Uther's head to come open when Uther threw for the leg. So what Sean was doing is like, go ahead, hit me in the leg, I know you want it, and I'm going to try to counter you in the head, which will give me the win, although I do have a bleeding leg. Didn't work out for him, though. Okay, so we go back, let's watch this in slow-mo. They both throw leg shots, neither of which really connect, and you've got to hit hard for it to count. So see, Uther's shot comes in, bounces up. Sean's shot just sort of skips off the leg. All right, continuing on clean. Now, here you can see a lot of sword motion. Why is Uther moving his sword around so much? I've got a hypothesis. If he had his sword completely static, the moment he fires, you're going to detect motion. If his sword is moving around, it's not just idle, but what it's doing is masking when the startup of that shot is happening. And he's also, each one of those sword movements is a real threat. Every quarter of a second he's thinking, can I throw now? Can I let this go? Can I let this go? But it's also masking the start of the shot. This time it's the opposite leg, inside leg, and you can see Sean's reaching for the head, right? So Sean drops the shield, takes that step in. You know, I said if you move the back foot in, you mask the shot. If you move the front foot, it sort of exposes it. Well, here he does. He steps it forward as Uther's already throwing the shot. Kind of lets him take the leg. Uther's laser precise, 1 inch above the knee, just where it needs to be, under the shield. And Sean's hoping to capitalize and rip Uther's head at the same time, but Uther's got a really solid defense to the head. The only thing that's really open on Uther at this point is his arm, and I don't think Sean's going for that. So he's like, okay, if I can't hit that side of the head, I'm going to rip this side of the head. Sean is now ready to throw that off body that we saw before, or throw that offside into the head as he's getting ready to drop, and Uther covers up with that shield and brings it out. So there's just nothing there. And you can see a couple times, like, Sean's like, maybe now, maybe now, maybe now. God damn it, he's still covered, you know, so... And then here we see Uther throws a really laser-precise moulinet between the sword and shield. So let's take a look at how he does that. First, we'll go back and see his approach. His approach, he steps forward. He's now sword leg forward, which you don't see Uther doing it all the time, right? Whereas, some guys are almost always sword leg forward. So now he's sword leg forward, and he takes a lunge step after the cross step, but he hasn't thrown. So he's actually pushing forward with his defense. He's exposed his leg a little bit. Sean throws for the leg. I think Uther picks it up with a shield, if I remember the sound. Yeah. And now it looks like he's going to throw the offside, but he's not. What he's waiting for is Sean's recovery. When Sean feels safe, I've got my sword coming back, my shield's coming forward. Uther, remember how I showed that at the beginning, and I said if I'm in that position that Sean's in, I want to throw the moulinet or the offside body? Look at the position that Uther's in. Sword down in front of his shield, his elbow is high, and his wrist is torqued. To me, that always reads as a moulinet or offside body. So what's he do? He's going to yank down on this basket hilt. At least that's the way I generate power for this. And the tip is going to come down, and he's going to have to wait. One nice thing about the moulinet is you can actually get it into this space without too much difficulty because you can push the hand away from the camera and then throw in at sort of like a diagonal angle there. But Sean's sword is coming back up, right? So Sean's sword is going to close some of that gap. Ultimately, the position Sean wants to be in is sort of A-frame here, right? So he's closing that slot, but he's trying to recover from that leg shot that he threw. So he gets his defense up a little bit. You can't really see, but right here you can see just a hair. Sean's sword is here. Sean's basket's here. Sean's other shield edge is here. Oh, wrong tool. Sean's shield edge is... Oh, that's actually... Well, I'm just going to get those lines off the face. But you can see his sword back there. So you can tell that there's maybe a couple inches of gap, and it's not even facing Uther's face. So what Uther does is he knows where that gap's going to be, and he throws right past the edge of the shield and not very wide. Because Sean's sword is almost there to get the A-frame up. He ends up with two parallel lines that are maybe 2 inches apart and canted away from the camera at like a 45-degree angle, and Uther throws right into that little slot. So if he had thrown, when the opening was this, if he'd thrown here, Sean would block it. If he'd thrown here, Sean would block it. If he'd thrown here, Sean would block it. So he throws it like there, and it gets in. So really laser precise, and he's probably targeting as he goes. Now, some of that means it wasn't super hard. You can see there's no body shift on it. Uther doesn't drop his body at all. He pulls his hips back a little, but mostly it's from yanking that hand down. So it doesn't land super hard, so Sean thinks for a second about it. Good enough, right? Really cool shot. Very precise. All right, let's watch one more, and then we'll call it. There's a lot of good fights in the set. I recommend watching the whole video. Snipe the leg, fake snipe the leg, rising snap, classic, but with a really cool twist. So I don't know if he's actually trying to pattern Uther here. He might have. So you pattern people by throwing a shot, getting them to expect it, and then you might do a leg shot, leg shot, leg shot, head shot, right? I don't know that Sean's necessarily doing this. I don't know that Uther would fall for it, but Sean throws a leg shot, Uther blocks it. Sean throws what looks like a leg shot, Uther drops his shield a little bit, but that's like... You're talking year 2 fighter stuff. It's so common, it's got a name, the rising snap, right? So you throw a snap down here, and, well, here, I'm going to, instead of just drawing on the screen, you throw a snap down here, and instead you go, oh, aha, right? Rising snap. So how is it that you hit a guy like Duke Uther with a rising snap? There's a lot more going on here than you might think, and when you hear Uther afterwards say, beautiful shot, you know there was more going on. So the opening, Sean steps forward, Uther doesn't rip the leg this time, and you can see Sean's kept it back a little bit. Throws for the leg, doesn't get it. Now, Sean's closed the distance. They're closer together now. Uther's getting ready to counter. It looks like he's thought about something. Sean now throws that headshot. So here's where it gets in, right? So we just saw it connect right between those frames. So what does Sean do to make this second shot work? First off, notice Duke Uther doesn't throw his shield down like, block the leg, right? He doesn't overreact. The other thing he does is he leaves his sword here to defend that quadrant, right? So it is a rising snap, and there is a little bit of a threat to read to the leg, but a lot of it is, I'm going to get Uther to respond just a little bit to the threat to the leg. He's not going to open himself up like some newbie, but it's going to force a bit of a response. And if he leaves me the tiniest gap, I will continue to calculate where I need to throw my sword to get past even into that little small gap. So right now, Uther's sword tip is pointed away from us. It's providing defense. His shield's providing a second level of defense. So Sean goes up with the shield. A lot of people push up and out when they're about to throw the rising snaps. They push up and out. You see all this movement coming from Sean. You don't throw a big feint against a guy like Uther. You throw a little feint. So this one's fairly big. And then the hand circles back. You see the hand go from here to here. And that looks like it's going to be one of these. Bang, right? But instead, it stops there and projects forward. And look at the angle that he's swinging along. So Uther's sword still protecting that side of his head. But where Sean ends up, you look at the angle of his blade and the angle of his wrist and elbow. He's opened his wrist really far. He's also, so he's thrown between the sword and the shield. You can see that the shield has gone down a little bit, right? To block the leg a little, but he's still got this sword here for defense. So how did he get in? It's not just that he shot the gap. It's not just that he shot here. What he did, I think, was effectively shorten the range of his own sword. So as he comes in, he's gone, you see a bit of a scooping motion of the blade. That doesn't look clear. Just follow the blade's motion through this space. Sorry, I'm going wrong way. Okay, so going backward, you see the blade is going horizontal, down, up. So he sort of waves the tip under Uther's defense and under his sword and over the shield and tags him in the face with just the tip of the sword. And again, Sean doesn't have a thrusting tip on his sword, so that bites into the bars pretty good. I hope I've managed to break that down in a way that makes sense. It's a weird, maybe it's even what people used to call a wavy rising snap, because it's a little hard to describe, but it has. How do I articulate this? The hand comes back, down, up, then the blade goes flat, down, up, right? So they called it a wavy rising snap because you're like, is it going to the leg? Is it going to the head? In this case, I'm not sure that that's the real goal. The initial, this is going to be a low shot, is just to get the shield there. Uther's still got a defense, and Sean is sharpshooting under that defense by changing the blade angulation and by scooping the blade a little bit. So, anyway, I hope that made sense. I'm going to do one more quick pass. Snap offside wraps. Uther's going snap offside. Really easy, really safe, and throws a lot of offense in front of you, which creates a ton of defense because you're controlling the space. That was probably an apology for hitting in the knee. Really cool wrap. Didn't quite connect. I think it's because Sean stepped away from the camera. There's that leg shot that Uther's been pretty successful with. Sean touches Uther, but it's not hard enough. Fake thrust. Close in, and now just rain blows. And Uther's comfortable standing in that distance. I didn't quite see what landed there, but let's see what we can break down here. So it's a pretty long exchange. Where are we going here? Back a little further, I think. Let's start here. There's that snap offside. Here you see Sean actually throws, if we go back a little bit, Sean throws that offside body we saw at the beginning. The hand comes over. It's a bit of a moulinet. You can look at how far he's reaching his elbow, right? So his elbow's here, his hand is here, and he's looking to throw around the edge of Uther's shield. Uther's done something really interesting here. He's not pushing Sean around with his shield. But look, he started to turn the shield in his hand. It's almost rolling to sort of like the front edges towards the camera now. He's letting it follow Sean around a little bit. Now Sean throws that offside, and look at how far he's looked to get it and stepped over. I would lose most of my power transitioning into that position. Sean looks like he's totally prepared to throw the shot, but Uther gets the basket in there as he's throwing his own shot, so they just sort of bounce off each other, I think. Oh, that's what it was. Tagged him in the arm a little bit, but that's before Sean was able to get the power in on the shot. So Uther opens, leans back a little bit. You don't see him doing this much. Sean's doing the big follow in, Now, Uther is recognizing that all of the threat right now is on his left side, which is why he's using his shield to block his legs and his sword to block the left side of his head. That's because Sean's shield right now is making it so that Sean can't throw to the offside. So Uther holds the defense on that side, they back out. Sean throws that again with a little, you see that basket pump to try to get Uther moving out of the way. Throws that signature offside again. This time, Uther's sticking his butt way back out, so that just doesn't connect. He throws right for where Sean's head would be. This is a killer shot right here. Whoosh, but look at how far Sean has ducked to get under it. And I'm not even sure that he saw the shot developing, but these guys have now just both voided an awesome shot. I don't know if you play video games like Fight Night, that's where each one of those is one of those ones where it goes woo into slow-mo, counter, woo, slow-mo, counter, right? So this is a really cool moment. Now they are both in bad positions because they've done big voids, so they're both happy to get out. Sean throws an obvious, well, not obvious, to us it looks obvious, a big feint up here. Go high. Uther responds a little bit, but not enough to make it a real, to get Sean the opening he wants. And now he's corked way up. I think this looks like an offside at first. It's really cool. He's actually throwing the sky wrap. But you can see it sort of doesn't quite connect square with Sean's head, sort of tings off and down at an angle into the back of Sean's shield. Really cool. I mean, this is the first time you see Uther really using his height advantage. Gets way up, does the big follow step too. I would like to be better at sky wraps, and I could study this little movement here. Even though it didn't land, step forward with the sword leg, develop the power throw, and then watch the rear leg follow in. As he finishes the sky wrap, he follows with that rear leg. And because Sean has taken the body movement that way is why it doesn't land, I think. Really cool shot. All right, now we get in. This is where he rips that inside thigh. I wish I could hit Sean like this. Recognize that Uther throws his shots fast. They don't start fast. They start at like a 6 or 7, but they end at a 9 in speed. Like the number of frames from here to here, 1, 2, 3. So that's a tenth of a second to get there. And again, you can see Sean's shield being as short as it is, he just can't get the point there. Sean throws that counter offside, but Uther's already pulling out, so it just tings off. And this is that, it was a little difficult to see where this fight ended up because Uther's a big dude and he's blocking the camera. So fake thrust to get in. Sean throws the offside. Uther, safe onside, offside. That's a fake onside to offside. And then I think it's that final chop. So maybe it's the offside after the feint onside. I apologize, by the way. In case I haven't been clear, this is onside, offside. Not really the best terminology we could use, is it? So Uther goes onside, offside, windshield wiper. Really safe. Really easy to throw with good power, and he's throwing it with a lot of technique, right? Like blades down. He's trying to get Sean on the body or in the armpit, because Sean's sword is here and his shield's there, and Uther wants to throw right in the middle. So he's throwing it blade down. Didn't work. This time, step. He's going to take this deep step. And now, Sean can't see much behind his shield, but he knows how to read every little element that his opponent's giving him. So Uther takes the step this direction. He pulls his, I'm going to pick the Uther color, pulls his body this direction. You see the sword go this direction. Right? Everything says go this way. He's very sneaky because the attack comes on that direction. So he takes the step, he does the fade, he moves the hips, he moves the hand, and then throws offside. Deep, too. You can see probably the blades almost vertical. That might be what hit Sean, or maybe Sean blocks it with his sword, hard to say. And then you see Uther does from a sword vertical this direction, rotates up, and ends up with a shot down this direction. Up, clears the sword, even though he's quite close, chops down. Not sure which of those two landed. So these guys, both super dudes. There's a lot more footage that you can look through. I think I'm 2 minutes into 3 minutes of footage. But these guys, obviously, both very top-tier fighters. A ton to learn from these fights. If you have any insight or recommendations for how I might do a better job of these videos, please do let me know right in the comments on YouTube. That's the easiest place for me to get your feedback. Someone recently suggested, and I tried, to run through entire fights before breaking them down because I enthusiastically jump in. I am also not as of high a caliber of fighter as these guys, so I might be making some false assumptions about what they're doing. I might be missing out on details. So if you've got any input as an expert fighter on things that other viewers might benefit from, please include that. And if you are not an SCA fighter, or if you fight another medieval style, I am more than willing to take those videos and attempt to work them down as well. If you've got questions about what you saw, like why didn't this guy kick that guy over, any of that stuff, leave it in comments. I'll do my best. I try to answer all comments. And it's gotten to the point I'm trying to do one of these a week. So hopefully I'll be able to get this uploaded by Monday. And if I can get a few weeks in a row of Mondays, then I'll be able to call it like a weekly thing. So feedback, comments, questions, concerns, just let me know. And if you've got video that you would like for me to take a look at, also just let me know. Thanks very much.